They changed the game, thrilled audiences, and defined the Wild West, but the Oscars said nothing. These 10 westerns were pure gold, yet went home empty-handed. Let's find out why. Rio Bravo, 1959. Rio Bravo wasn't just a western, it was a masterclass in cool. Directed by Howard Hawks and starring John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Ricky Nelson, this 1959 classic flipped the genre on its head. Instead of relying on a posse or gun-blazing action, it slowed things down and focused on tension, character, and camaraderie. Wayne plays a small-town sheriff standing against a gang of outlaws with only a drunk, a cripple, and a kid by his side. It's packed with charm, suspense, and sharp dialogue. Critics and audiences loved it, yet when Oscar time rolled around? Not a single nomination. No nod for Best Director. Nothing for the unforgettable performances or the crisp screenplay. Why? Some say the Academy didn't take westerns seriously. Others believe it was overshadowed by more serious dramas that year. But in hindsight, Rio Bravo stands tall as one of the coolest, smartest westerns ever made. The Oscars may have ignored it, but fans know better. This film wasn't just robbed, it was flat-out ambushed. Once Upon a Time in the West, 1968. Epic. Operatic. Unforgettable. Once Upon a Time in the West wasn't just a western, it was Sergio Leone's love letter to the American frontier, told with sweeping visuals, haunting music, and long, tension-soaked silences. With a powerhouse cast, Henry Fonda as a cold-blooded villain, Charles Bronson as the mysterious harmonica, and Claudia Cardinale radiating strength and sorrow, the film rewrote the rules of the genre. Ennio Morricone's score alone should have won gold. But what did the Academy do? Nothing. No Best Picture. No Best Director. Not even a technical nod. Critics at the time didn't quite get it, but decades later, it's hailed as a cinematic masterpiece. Leone's deliberate pacing and grand style were ahead of their time. Hollywood was stuck in the past, while this western was pointing to the future. Today, it's studied in film schools and revered by directors like Tarantino and Scorsese. Still, the Oscars missed the train on this one. Once Upon a Time in the West didn't just deserve a nomination, it deserved a standing ovation. Red River, 1948. Red River roared onto the screen like a stampede, gritty, intense, and loaded with emotional firepower. Directed by Howard Hawks and featuring one of John Wayne's most complex performances, it told the story of a tyrannical cattleman and his adopted son clashing on a dangerous cattle drive. Wayne shed his heroic image to play a hardened, obsessive figure, while Montgomery Clift brought sensitivity and steel to his breakout role. The film combined raw masculinity with deep psychological drama, pushing westerns into new, mature territory. It earned 2 Oscar nominations, for writing and editing, but somehow, not Best Picture, not Best Director, and shockingly, not Best Actor for Wayne. Why the cold shoulder? Maybe it was too intense, too morally murky for the Academy in 1948. Or maybe, like many westerns, it was underestimated for being just a genre film. But make no mistake, Red River reshaped the western forever. It paved the way for darker, more character-driven frontier stories. The Oscars may have tipped their hat slightly, but they should have gone all in. This wasn't just a western, it was a revolution on horseback. The Searchers, 1956. Considered by many as the greatest western ever made, The Searchers was a cinematic powerhouse that dug deep into the darkness of obsession, racism, and revenge. Directed by John Ford and led by a hauntingly intense John Wayne, the film followed a Civil War veteran on a years-long quest to rescue his kidnapped niece, but it wasn't just a rescue story. It was a psychological journey into the mind of a man consumed by hate and pain. The cinematography? Breathtaking. The themes? Decades ahead of their time. And John Wayne? Delivering arguably the best performance of his career. So what did the Academy do? Barely noticed. 1 nomination, for Best Color Cinematography. No nod for Best Picture. None for Ford. None for Wayne. It's one of the most notorious Oscar snubs in history. At the time, its disturbing complexity may have been too much for voters. But over time, critics and filmmakers, from Spielberg to Scorsese, have hailed it as a masterpiece. The Oscars missed a chance to honor a film that redefined the Western, and cinema itself. The Searchers wasn't just snubbed, it was ignored at its peak. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, 1966. Iconic doesn't even begin to describe it. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly wasn't just a Western, it was a cinematic event that changed the way movies were made, watched, and remembered. Directed by Sergio Leone and powered by Ennio Morricone's legendary score, this film gave us Clint Eastwood's unforgettable Man with No Name, Eli Wallach's wild unpredictability, and Lee Van Cleef's cold-blooded menace. With its operatic scale, morally gray characters, and stylized violence, it elevated the Western into high art. And yet, not a single Oscar nomination. Not for Best Director. Not for the groundbreaking music. Not even for editing or cinematography. It was too bold, too strange, too European for the Academy at the time. Ironically, decades later, it's celebrated as one of the greatest films of all time, of any genre. Its influence is everywhere, from Tarantino films to modern action epics. But back then? The Oscars looked away. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly didn't just get snubbed, it reloaded, fired back, and claimed cinematic immortality without their approval. The Misfits, 1961. Haunting, poetic, and heartbreakingly raw, The Misfits was less about gunfights and more about lost souls drifting through the dying West. Written by Arthur Miller and directed by John Huston, the film starred Marilyn Monroe, Clark Gable, and Montgomery Clift, three Hollywood legends, all delivering some of the finest, most vulnerable performances of their careers. Set in a dusty corner of Nevada, it told the story of aging cowboys and a disillusioned woman trying to find purpose in a world that no longer fits them. It wasn't your typical Western, it was quieter, sadder, more human. Yet despite the powerhouse cast and emotional weight, the Academy shut it out completely. No nominations. No recognition. Maybe it was too melancholic, too ahead of its time, or too emotionally raw for 1961 voters. But today, The Misfits is seen as a swan song, for the Western genre, for Gable and Monroe, and for a fading era of American cinema. The Oscars may have ignored it, but its legacy speaks volumes. This wasn't just a snub, it was a heartbreaking miss of a truly unforgettable film. My Darling Clementine, 1946. Directed by the legendary John Ford, My Darling Clementine is a timeless retelling of the legendary gunfight at the OK Corral. With Henry Fonda delivering a calm yet commanding performance as Wyatt Earp, this film blends history, myth, and classic Western drama into a beautifully shot and deeply human story. Its influence on the Western genre is undeniable, setting the tone for countless films that followed. The haunting cinematography, the memorable score, and the sharp dialogue all come together to create a cinematic experience that feels both intimate and epic. Yet when Oscar nominations came around, this masterpiece was overlooked. No nods for Best Picture, Director, or Actor, despite its enduring legacy and critical acclaim. It's a classic example of how the Academy often missed recognizing true Western greatness during that era. My Darling Clementine stands today as a pillar of the genre, proving that sometimes the most iconic films are those that the Oscars forgot to honor. True Grit, 1969. John Wayne finally won his only Oscar for True Grit, but many argue this Western deserved even more recognition. Directed by Henry Hathaway, the film tells the story of a tough U.S. Marshal Rooster Cogburn, hired by a determined young girl to track down her father's killer. Wayne's portrayal of Cogburn was rough, gruff, yet deeply charismatic, earning him the Best Actor Oscar. But beyond Wayne's performance, True Grit was a complete package: sharp writing, compelling characters, and stunning landscapes that captured the harsh beauty of the frontier. Still, the film was surprisingly ignored in major categories like Best Picture and Best Director. Perhaps the Academy couldn't fully appreciate the mix of grit and heart that made this film stand out. Over time, True Grit has become a beloved classic, influencing countless westerns and even getting a successful modern remake. The Oscars gave it one statue, but this film's impact deserved a full trophy case.